Light is a universal guide. It shows us the way forward in times of darkness. Today, Travel Light brings together music, art, and history to illuminate the stories of power, migration, and resilience. This is a performance for those who have journeyed far, for those whose stories of displacement resonate deeply.
This concert this evening is funded by the Arts Council and PRS for the public benefit, which is what SAA-uk does. It allows space and opportunity for people from underrepresented backgrounds, shines a light on them in order for them to have a safe space to explore and tell stories, use their music, their performing arts in order to reach and touch souls, but also for themselves to release whatever that might be. So when you think of a lighthouse, you think of hope at one side, and as it turns, the light turns, there's a darkness, and who knows what's in that darkness. But what the lighthouses of maritime past do have carry stories and secrets that if they could speak, perhaps this evening what you're going to hear, they might be the stories and the songs that they would share with you. Standing lonely on whichever place to guide you in to the harbour for safety.
Travel Light is not just a performance, but a collective journey, exploring identity, displacement, and belonging through the lenses of music, spoken word, and visuals. A group of diverse artists come together to reflect on the legacies of colonialism and the power of light to guide our way. John Smeaton revolutionized lighthouse construction in the 18th century. His designs guided sailors safely to shore, but lighthouses also became symbols of control over trade routes, marking both safe passage and imperial dominance.
Lighthouses watching over the night skies and stormy seas have a real romance to them. They represent adventure and storytelling, and importantly, they connect us to places and people around the world. But lighthouses are also motifs for hope and fear, welcome and warning. So we wanted to weave those contrasting themes into Travel Light storytelling. If you listen to the words and the musical journey of the piece, you'll hear stories of colonial invasion, of our human need to connect, and how our relationship with nature has been skewed by profit.
I wasn't sure what to expect from the, but I was given a brief, and I didn't know any of the musicians, and so I came with an open mind and to contribute to the best of my ability to the success of the project. And it was very enjoyable for me to see how the project was evolving day by day, hour by hour. Sometimes an idea would come and we would all run with it, and some ideas took a bit longer to form, but we knew we had a schedule of just 1 week. So when it got closer to the end of the week, it was getting quite intense, which is great because it starts forming the ideas a lot quicker and decisions get made much quicker.
Ẹni àjọ ṣànọ́dà, wọ́n ti kú, wọ́n ti lọ. Ẹni àjọ ṣòníyò, ó lè dọ̀la ká má rí mọ́. Yeah. Ẹni àjọ ṣànọ́dà, that's like the person we were with yesterday or in the past. Yeah. Wọ́n ti kú, wọ́n ti lọ, that's like they've died, they're dead, they're gone. And ẹni àjọ ṣòníyò, the people here with us now, in the present, ó lè dọ̀la ká má rí mọ́. It's like tomorrow might come and they be with us no more.
In the 18th century, trade routes expanded the reach of British colonialism. These routes carried more than spices and goods. They carried people, power, and domination. For many, this marked the beginning of displacement.
पालन करने को मौसम की हर सख्ती झेली जाती थी। लोग थे भोले भाले, आंखें हर लालच से खाली थी, कोई न भूखा सोता था। And when I heard about her project and I came here and she shared everything with me, and it was, I feel like it is the kind of project which will be described about myself and the history of olden time. अपनी मसनद की खातिर कितने ताजों तक गिराए थे, पनप न पाए भाईचारा, तफरके यूं फैलाए थे। मैं अब भी घायल हूँ, नाशाद हूँ, नालाए फरियाद हूँ। जख्म जो तूने दिए थे अब तक रिश्ते हैं, एक बार जो उजड़े बस्ती फिर बसते बसते बसती है। यही मेरी कहानी है, यही मेरी हस्ती है, यही मेरी कहानी है, यही मेरी हस्ती है।
So the ensemble is a collection of people that, thanks to Christella, the musical director that we brought in. Christella Litras is someone I've worked with before. She's a Cypriot, has a great love for indie music because it's very popular in Cyprus for some reason. But she is from that heritage of an Indo-Cypriot and Greek empire before Alexander the Great. So she's got a passionate love for music. She works with her ear, and that's how she directs and shapes music and puts it forward. And then so you go from having somebody like that as a musical director to then bringing on an ensemble of people who bring lots of different expertise. But the magical thing about was that we brought them in for one reason, and then you discovered that they had another thing that they could offer.
Pepper, tea, and other goods, once traded like treasures, were catalysts for colonial expansion. But these goods also carried with them stories of oppression, displacement, and the control of people.
Clear our way. Is it Ogun? Yeah. Is it Ogun? Keep going. Clear our way. Warrior Ogun, do not forget me. Hear my cry, blood in the soil and tears from my eyes. Hi, my name is Michelle Scally-Clark, and I have the great honour of being the narrator of the Travel Light piece. I am Irish, Scottish, Nigerian. My mother and father both migrated here, and I was put straight into a children's home when I was born because my mother was unmarried. Yeah, so I was placed straight into a children's home, and growing up in Seacroft and not seeing any faces of colour, then being adopted against my wishes, really. I was adopted against my wishes, but I wanted a family, a black family, and I was introduced to a beautiful, beautiful white family. All of these things, they made me want to communicate in a way that usually my communication style is quite aggressive. So I found that poetry helped. And yeah, so I began writing even though I was dyslexic at the age of 14. And it was just a way for me to hear my own voice in the midst of social workers and other people. And my journey has really, through poetry, has really been about identity, well-being and just empowerment, really. We of earth and earth of we. We are all circular connected. The moon's soft pull upon the seas creates a swell of earth's both leaves. With waters rising, high tides fall, while in the troves the lows are born. When sun and moon and earth align, in fall on you and they entwine. The tides surge higher, stronger, wide. Spring tides emerge with ebbing tide. And the sea carries all. The guilty and the stolen, the secrets broken, light, dark and shade. See, we are all capable of love, joy and rage. And we're all capable of future making change. Nature teaches us all we need when we have the eyes to see.
Inventions like lighthouses helped guide ships safely, but they also marked the rise of colonialism. The light they cast showed the way forward for some, while casting shadows for others.
It's funny because Travel Light spoke about traveling the world, and when you called me, I was traveling for the first time in my life. In the UK, I have always been constrained. I've always had things like you can't work for more than 20 hours. Before you come in every year, let's check that you are the only one who can do this, you know. So it's been a struggle and a war for an uphill battle for many, many years. And when you called, that was the first time in my life that I actually traveled on holiday in 15 years since being in the UK, and the first holiday of my life ever. So when I was there, I remember having to have this small backpack that I couldn't fit much into it, and I traveled lightly. But also, I started thinking about the journey around Africa and all of those things and the history and the colonization. So the project just fit like a glove in that sense. And I like that there is a continuity in it. It cannot be disjointed. So it's like this relay that somebody started something in England and to Spain, and then from Spain to South Africa, and from South Africa to India. So it was like, yeah, I felt like I was born for this, and I'm grateful.
Up skin intimidation, I will bring my son in glory. I'm the start of all our story.
All right, we'll get it. We'll be fine.
Great. So this will make more sense on the breakdown.
It's just those.
Morse code became the language of the sea, a way for sailors to communicate using light and sound. In Travel Light, this coded language is transformed into music and poetry, a reflection of how we communicate our experiences across cultures.
It's just follow that pattern and I'll do the rest on my right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam, bam, dam, dam, bam, 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 bam. Everyone gave their part. Everybody, we all co-composed this together, and it was definitely a collaborative experience, you know. And I was really honoured to kind of direct that sound and try to do it with the utmost respect, because, you know, I learned so much in this process. I'd never sung any kind of chants like Zulu chants or, you know, some of the dialect, the Zulu dialect, and spending time with Tanda and having that time where I could just, you know, learn from him, as well as learn from him in the space, and that goes with everybody, every single person in the space. Roads winding over hills and plains. Ports for the cargo, the goods and the gains. Woolen steel.
Okay, I'll harmonize there. Yeah.
Churches for faith, churches for faith. I'll do it again.
Okay.
Me, yeah? Roads winding over hills and plains. Ports for the cargo, the goods and the gains. Ready?
Yeah.
Woolen steel. Churches for faith, churches for faith. Here we go. Churches for faith.
Yeah, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because what they've done is amazing for the support of, I guess, the birth of industry and trade, which is, you know, something that we all depend on now, day to day. Drink tea, cook with spices, you know, we all depend on it. But then I guess
when you do it sometimes da 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 da, sometimes I
think as a piece of like performance art, this is definitely right up my street, and it was absolutely like the way it absolutely headed in the direction that I thought it would. I think had we had, like, if we did spent a month on this project, it would have been something totally evolved. But I think as like an idea and as a starting point, and as something that's been in the works for 7 years, and something that was only created within a week, I think it beautifully told the story. I think that we couldn't have done anything more than what we did, and it was perfect for the space. It was perfect for the audience that came to watch it. Do you know what I mean? Like, everything fit very nicely. And if we had had more time, I'm sure we might have done it in a bigger space with a bigger installation and more people and more instruments and more. Do you know what I mean? And more. But for what it was, this really nicely packed story for you.
शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि.
So Travel Light is a project that came about after a conversation here in this office at SAA-uk, and it really came out of Jane and Abby, who are my fellow mad creative people in the city of Leeds, who thought it would be great to build a lighthouse in the middle of Leeds. And I went, yeah, that's an amazing idea. Of course we can build a lighthouse. But the thing that captured me the most was the idea of lights and lighthouse language, and how could that be interpreted into music and therefore create something. So as Abby, Jane and I always do when we gather together, we had this idea of like this lighthouse would be built, and it would be built with like an arch underneath where we'd have a whole ensemble that would play this music that's been created by taking the language of the lighthouse code, and then eventually it would be recorded, and so it would be performed in the summer. That was the first idea, and then eventually it would be recorded and it would then be played to a musical light show around this lighthouse that was going to be built somewhere on the river at some point, and then on the 21st of December people could go past it, listen to this music and watch these lights, and that was the grand idea back then, 7 years ago.
Like lighthouses, many innovations brought both hope and hardship. Travel light reflects on this duality, acknowledging both the pain and progress, happiness and sorrow, and how these stories shape our present and future.
Got the call about travel light, I thought it was a really interesting concept, and I think the way that we've interpreted it is equally interesting. I really like what we've done, this whole concept of a journey, travelling all to these different countries, and it's been such a privilege. To learn so much about all these different countries and the people that have studied that type of music. So it's been really interesting, exciting, kind of exploring through music all these different places that these lighthouses were located.
I think it was so amazing being in the space. For me, I've not worked with musicians before, so it was really lovely to actually see the process, and it was really beautiful actually to see the full process and like see how the notes come together and the song comes together and like the feel of where they're gonna go next. And it was an amazing experience for me personally, but I think it definitely directed what we were gonna have up on the organs.
Each artist brings the richness to travel light. From African vocals to Indian classical music, from Spanish guitar to British poetry, this is a performance of cultural fusion.
When I heard Lighthouse and Smeaton and England and Plymouth and everything, I'm thinking, yeah, that's totally like, I was born in this country, so that all makes sense. But as an Indian musician, how do we shape this up? How does it all, sort of pan out?
Really using music as a way of animating and telling a story that celebrates, for me, celebrates the people of Leeds. Okay, so Leeds to me is about individuals and a collective group that have got a very can-do attitude. Leeds people are salt of the earth, or Yorkshire people are salt of the earth people. We just get on, we do, what we must do within a resourceful amount of money or resilience and all of those tenacity, but it's always for the public good. So when they told me about the lighthouse and the whole story about John Smeaton, who I knew nothing about, but I'm somebody who is fascinated by architecture and the incredible ability that humans have to take an idea or a moment of inspiration or something they've observed and come up with a solution and build things and push boundaries that you wouldn't even imagine. and that. So in this particular case, John Smeaton was born in LS9. I thought, great, that celebrates Leeds, which is what they wanted to do. They wanted to mark this contribution that he'd made, and he's known as the father of the term civil engineering, so engineering for the public good. So in a way, I wanted to, and then of course they told me about lighthouses and how they then got built, and now there's a trade route, and in talking 1775, and then my mind starts to multiply. I started thinking about the whole idea of like these ships leaving, you know, going, you know, my imagination was you're going from Leeds, you end up at Plymouth, which is where the first Edison Lighthouse was built. They informed me that when it was first built on the 16th and lit on the 16th of October, it had 24 candles, so this number 24 stayed in my head. And then they would have gone around the coast of Spain, along the African coast, because the Suez Canal didn't exist then, up the Madagascar Straits, and somehow ended up in India. So there was this whole thing, oh my goodness, could we, and this is where my mind went exploding really big again, could we possibly do this thing from where we had these lighthouses and we got the artists from the places that we chose where these lighthouses were on this route, this global trade route, navigation, maritime route, and bring them together to create this piece of music.
For the refugees in the audience, this performance is more than entertainment. It's reflection of their journey, their strength and their resilience. Travel Light is dedicated to those who have travelled thousands of miles in search of safety and light.
I think it's important to dip into the things that like make us and the small things that we don't think about. Like we don't tend to think about light and electricity, or we don't tend to think about what it means to like, we don't think about what it means, what it took for us to travel in the first place, what it took for people to get from A to B. Like, we don't think about these things on a day-to-day basis. So being able to like think about that as a whole and think about that deeply, and then create sounds to go with it, and really pulling this story apart and like inserting ourselves in it. Like, yeah, that bit always interested me, so I think that was the main thing.
Joint labours of ingenious men, 8 of the best hands to assist the joiners, smiths, plumbers, coppersmiths, glaziers, painters, that every stone fulfills its place. And there was no that he would ask someone his sen was afraid to do. He called a spade, Yorkshire ways. There is no knowing where the journey, the destination, nor the route that taken, what made in inspiration, or where the winds will take us. One man's genius, another man's sin. Wild landscapes, beaches, sunset views, lighthouse, pilgrimage, sight. The end of lark, the start of the sky, where many passed, but few knew why. Power, there's a drum here, this should be a drum.
No, you're setting the tempo.
Do I?
Yeah.
Power, pepper, people, trade, light,